Hey, everybody, welcome back to Crunching Your Growth. And today we're in the premium beauty trenches with someone who rewrote the rules of distribution. Shmuly Ainsworth built SAYN on a simple idea: moving units isn't enough. Protecting brand integrity while driving performance is the job. So we'll talk packaging that reflects price points, storytelling that actually converts on Amazon, and why SAYN evolved from distributor to true growth partner, owning outcomes across strategy, ops, marketing, and channel management. So if you're building a premium brand or if you ever felt underserviced by distribution, this one's for you. So we're going to dive in. We'll get to know Shuli. We'll get to understand his story and how he started, and and figure out what it takes to really be a successful entrepreneur, especially in the beauty space, which is a sort of a difficult space to begin with. So let's bring him in and let's hear his story. Shmuly, thank you again for taking the time to come on. And yeah, we'd love to hear how you started. You could take us back to how you started, what you were doing, and then how you evolved the business into what it is today and what that business is.
First of all, thank you very much for having me on the show, Phil.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Um, First and foremost, I would say my business, like many small businesses or startups that I know, was mostly built on mistakes. But I'll take you through some of what went right and some of what went wrong. But I think looking back and looking ahead, I mean, one thing about our business is not pigeonholing ourselves, and there's always something new on the frontier, and being open to being wrong really has been probably the most single thing that has like saved us through different times that have been really hard. So anyway, I started off, oddly enough, I mean, the beauty world, I would not call myself a beauty aficionado. I am a huge sucker for service. So when I got into e-commerce, we were buying and selling. We were actually buying and selling a lot of categories across beauty, wellness, health, grocery, organic grocery. I guess kind of the products that were in a good space, but also worked as far as shipping and worked where we can offer a value. So in that time when I got into beauty, most sellers were not packaging products properly. The customer service may have been lacking. They may not have been exactly detailed in what the product does. It was kind of just like buy for 10, sell for 20 type of business.
Sure.
So we saw a big avenue to kind of just go the extra mile, package it a little better so it doesn't leak in transit. Put a little card in there with the 800 number so customers can call in. Really just going, I wouldn't even say that far at the time, but like going the extra mile at the time of making sure that the customer got a luxury beauty product or a nice beauty product, or even a grocery product in good condition. I would say about 5-6 years ago, I think, or maybe 5-6 years ago, it became clear that I'm not going to be good at everything in my life, contrary to what my mother told me. So it became clear like we need to be really good at something, and we were trying to be good at a lot of things. So we basically sat down and said we have to ditch everything except for one category. Considering service was my passion and what I really drove me, beauty seemed, I mean, first of all, beauty was a great category in the sense of shipping. We're an online business, scaling shipping. The products are not crazy heavy. It's easy to handle. Logistics wise, again, we had at the time we had an air conditioning warehouse, which was pretty rare at the time. So for us, that was already a step ahead for beauty, where we were keeping our products in cool, especially in Miami. So beauty became, we sat down, we went through all the categories, and basically beauty was the clear outlier where service, people were spending a lot of money, but the service was not anywhere near where it was in, say, the fashion industry or somewhere else where, specifically women were spending a lot of money on their routines and more, and the service wasn't really catching up with it. So we decided to go with beauty. We made a really tough decision that was not very popular at the time to stop carrying very profitable brands and very profitable categories. Our revenue actually came down considerably in the beginning, and we started building up beauty and really going full force into the beauty industry. And that included building out, building a website to offer value for our customers and our brand customers, building out salon and spa distribution, masterclasses, events, pop-ups, really everything across the gamut, and really learning what beauty brands wanted and what customers were expecting from beauty brands. And I mean, along the way, we made, I would say, many mistakes. I mean, trying to scale certain parts of the salon industry, for instance, I would say was something that, for me, didn't work. Um, it was very hard for us to scale that door to door stylist. We had at one point, I think, 20 reps, sales reps, going from salon to salon and servicing accounts, but the account may be ordering anywhere from $200 to $1,000 at a time, and that was, something that took us a long time to realize. Well, too long. I shouldn't say long. It's too long to realize, hey, this is not scalable. We got to move this into digital. And we really moved everything to digital, salon, spa. But digital was where we were at. And I think, I guess sometimes listening to the customers, we were servicing spas and salons at the time, and they were wanting a specific level of service. We were really good at what we do, and I think we went out of what we do best, and we learned our lesson pretty hard, I think. And that came back to, how do we do this digitally? How do we scale this digitally? How do we offer service digitally? And going back to what we really know, which was Amazon, e-com, and in the last couple of years has been TikTok Shop, which has obviously turned into a big business across the United States, but for us in particular, we've seen a lot of virality from to Amazon and to e-com that has helped a lot of our brands and a lot of our business grow. Um, I think that's the bulk of my story.
So you started out basically just as an Amazon seller. You didn't have a brand. It was you were selling, like, from what I gathered, a mishmash of things, anywhere from food to beauty, etc. But just whatever you could get direct from people, selling it on Amazon, making a profit, and then you decided to scrap all that and just focus strictly on beauty.
We were buying direct from brands, but it could have been a brand selling. In those days, brands would sell to 20 sellers, 30
Yeah,
sellers, not really understanding, that you're all competing against each other, that the pie, is only a certain size, especially when there's not one seller there. So when there is one seller, you can advertise, you can target customers, you can run, infinite number of ads and DSP and display. Um, when there's 20 sellers, you're really, really limited on what you're doing. So essentially, it's a flea market. You're buying and selling product without the ability to optimize or improve any or offer any value. Really, you're not really offering value when you're one of 20 sellers in a buy box. There's nothing that we can really do to grow the brand in that scenario. And moving away from that and saying, how do we offer value? How do we, if we want to be here in 5 years, 10 years, like, what are we doing? And what are we really offering to the brand? And if you're not offering something, you're not going to be around for that long.
yeah. We face that challenge a lot of times. In fact, we when you take over that's how we started in the early days. We started marketing on Amazon. We weren't doing the pick, pack, and ship or any of that, but we were handling building the pages and optimizing pages and handling advertising. And you're 100% correct. Brands think that just because they're selling to all these people, that it's fine because they're getting the revenue from it. But what they don't understand is that it's actually hurting them when you've got 20 different sellers of your product on Amazon, because all it takes is one or two bad sellers to start getting bad reviews that reflect on the ASIN, that there's nothing the brand can do about that, really, right? And so I never liked that model of brand selling with multiple sellers. Never liked it. So we strictly now, the past probably 10 years, we just strictly focus on brands that want to be the only seller of their product and control it through the brand registry and control it in different ways, which I think is a better model for the brand, as well as, like you said, it's much more effective to advertise, because if you start advertising when you got 20 sellers, you're helping somebody else, sell their product, whoever wins the buy box at that moment. So.
I mean, I wouldn't even say it's better for the brand. I mean, I think it's the only way for the brand. I do think nowadays most beauty brands are aware of that. They do have, they have gated their brand and they have restricted selling to one seller or to Amazon, or they're managing it themselves. And I think that's the next level of, how do we optimize from there? So now our brand, there's only one seller, and obviously there's thousands of sellers and thousands of agencies, and really finding the ones that are, really understanding every intricate detail. But not even that, I think being open and being at the forefront and being ready for the next thing. And what is the next thing and how do we grow? Not how do we put up a good KPI or a good metric, but really how do we grow the brand as if it's ours. And our biggest thing has always been, you know, until we act like you own the brand. I mean, we have to act like we're the owners of the brand. And I tell everybody on my team, like, if the CEO of the brand came on, whichever brand we're carrying, and said, "Hey, why is my listing looking like this, or why is it
Right.
selling like this? Why is this picture here?" You need to answer to that, because you are representing them and their brand identity and their brand across really every other avenue. But now I would say TikTok is kind of the next frontier, which reminds me a lot of Amazon 5, 6 years ago, where many brands are resistant. It's somewhat of a mishmash flea market where there's a lot of, rogue sellers, a lot of counterfeit products, dupes, and there's definitely a lot of brands staying away, which obviously makes the opportunity that much bigger because the market is not saturated yet. And the brands that are going on there and going on there in the right way are really, really reaping benefits.
Yeah, no question about it. I think TikTok, we've been doing things on TikTok for the last, I guess, about 2 years, maybe 3 years, because that's sort of, for us, it was a natural fit because we started out, we built a beauty brand on the shopping channels early 2000s, and then we wound up in retail, Sephora, Ulta Beauty. We were international. We were in Canada. We were in Shoppers Drug Mart. We were on the shopping channel in Canada, and then we were on Amazon in 2006 with that particular brand. And so, we sort of learned, and we also did some direct response television when we in a different business. So we sort of learned how to use social selling, storytelling, in a video format to get your brand across. And so when we started messing around on TikTok, we found that our skill set works really well because we understand how to script a 1 minute, 2 minute spot to sell the product. And we've been good at it. That and in social media in general, social selling in general. Um, so, but yeah, I agree with you that beauty has always been, I think, a little bit more controlling of their brand on Amazon than some of the other. We don't just deal with beauty. We deal with food, electronics, toys, games, everything. So for us, it's a little bit different.
I think brands definitely came around, and I mean, beauty in particular. Obviously, a lot of most brands came around to understanding the value, protecting their brand, protecting the map. Whereas before it was like, I don't want my brand to be on Amazon. Realizing your brand is on Amazon, you might as well make the same brand identity, build a storefront, tell customers your story like you would on your website. I mean, it's no different than your website and how big Amazon is. And then in general, I mean, how big, any search engine now will show you everywhere your brand is. And I think anywhere your brand is, you either need to make it look like your brand, unless you can actually take it off the platform. So that's extremely difficult to do with most of these platforms. So, if they're going to be on there, if you can't beat them, join them, but not join them, but really like own it. I'm saying it's your brand. It's your job to own the brand everywhere it's going to be. I mean, I think there's some brands that are kind of fighting at the injustice of their brand being where they don't want it to be. And I get that. I get the frustration. I mean, I try to tell brands like it means you've made it when your brand is being put everywhere. Like if your brand wasn't in high demand, like no one would care to put it on Amazon. No one would care to put it on TikTok. So this is just the next step of evolution, when you get big enough. And
yeah, I agree with you. If your brand wasn't needed or wanted, nobody would care to put it on Amazon. And I agree with you that they should control it across all platforms, because when the customer searches for it, that's what they're going to see, and you have to control how your brand looks. Amazon. There were a lot of brands, I think maybe 10 years ago, that didn't want to be on Amazon. They heard all kinds of horror stories. But if you control it and manage it like a business and manage it as another website, because the reason you have to do it, from my perspective, is that's where the customer is. I think it's 92% of the buying population in the United States has the app on their phone. It's the first place they go and look. In fact, Amazon, what was it, about 2 months ago, maybe, they stopped advertising on Google Shopping, which is, the image ads on Google. They stopped. And, everybody in our world was like, oh my God, oh my God. But the reality was, cost per clicks dropped. And and visits to sites increased. But what didn't increase were conversions. So, what my take on that was that, first of all, I think Amazon was testing the waters to see if they needed to spend that money. That's my take. Second thing is the customer still looked for the product, saw the product, decided that they wanted to take a chance to buy the product, and went to Amazon anyway, even
Yep.
without the ads. So that's why I think Amazon was sort of testing it. I also think it has something to do with this change to with Rufus and Cosmo and what's going on there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Rufus and Cosmo, or if
I mean, I
you.
just want to say to that, I think there's a lot of when it comes to the Google, I think a lot of people are going to the website. Well, there's two types of shoppers. Some are going to the website to see the story, to discover the brand, and then they're going to go and see if it's on Amazon and they can get it one day or overnight. I mean, nowadays Amazon's shipping, a quarter of their products overnight. So even when they're getting the clicks on Google, I think, and those are, I guess you would call them attributed sales. Like the brand is getting a sale, but it's coming through Amazon. So, and I think a lot of that is happening, and I think brands are need to and are a lot of them are aware that they need to look at e-commerce and the whole website, the whole web as one big place. Like your sale may come on TikTok, it may come on Amazon, it may come on e-com, and kind of like as long as you're syncing everything and everything's blended and the story is all cohesive across there, like looking at it all as one spend and looking at it all as one ROAS and really having an overarching strategy. So knowing that sometimes if some customers converting on your site, but they're buying the product on Amazon, maybe they got convinced to buy the product on the site, but they're still going to see if they can get it overnight. And that's not a bad thing. As long as you're getting the sale from Amazon, the brand is still getting the sale from Amazon. The brand is still, everyone wins. And I think customers, it's good to get customers to your site to see the story. But in case they're not going, again, you want them on Amazon to at least see as much of your story as they can within Amazon's ecosystem.
Yeah, I I understand the rationale, and I agree with what your thought process is. I think about the conversations we have with brands where they think, well, you know, we don't really want them going to Amazon. We'd rather have them buying off our website. You're going, yeah, I know, but you can't change consumer behavior. If they see the ad and they go and look at your website and then they go to buy at Amazon, is that a bad thing? Well, we're giving up, X dollars in margin and here and there. And you're going, yeah, but you wouldn't have gotten that sale if it didn't happen at all. And then, they're going to try your product. Maybe they'll come back to the website and buy again and again and again. But you're going to get that first, maybe that second purchase on Amazon. If you can't deliver overnight, Amazon can. So I agree with you. You have to look at the entire e-commerce ecosystem, but trying to convince brands, especially brands that are under 10 million to 10 to 15 million in sales, they don't necessarily always get it. And it's really tough to explain it and get them to and convince them that it's okay. They always want to start cutting out channels and say, well, maybe we don't need to spend money there. And you're going, well, you do, because you need to have that entire ecosystem working at the same time. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, when you say convincing brands, I think, I mean, we went through that struggle also. I think where there was probably a lot of convincing and pitching brand. This is why you need to be here, and this is why you need to be there. And I think over time, and as we've grown, thankfully we have the ability now to choose kind of how we want to work, and understanding we want to work with brands, and the brands also want to grow 20, 30, 40%
sure.
year over year. Like, and I think having a brand that says, hey, like if you can take my brand from 6 million to 9 million, like I'm on board, like show me. And I think that those relationships have been really fruitful for us. Because if not, I think a lot of times the brands are, very concerned with, I don't want to be here, or this is going to be my budget. And I think it has to start from the brand. Like, I want to grow and I'm ready to embrace the new world. I mean, and again, we walk people through the TikTok shop, but there are brands that want to control every affiliate and not really understanding that TikTok is a volume, virality. You need to get to 5, 10,000 affiliates talking and using your product. So if you want to handpick them, like sure, you can get there in the next 5 years, but that's not the way TikTok is built. TikTok is,
Right.
authentic, and it's real, and it's real users, which is why customers are converting and flocking there. So, that that aspect also has been very, very tough for some people. But again, I don't want to speak to the brands not taking this on. We have brands that love it, and the brands that do embrace it are seeing immense results. And I think some of that is the beauty of this. I mean, as long as other brands are resisting, the
Yeah.
cost per clicks, the cost per affiliate, the cost per ad share is just lower, and it's easier to gain market share. And you see it with many TikTok brands now.
Yeah, no question about it. It's similar. You're 100% right. It's very similar to the dynamic that was going on with Amazon several years ago. And I'm fine if nobody wants to. If some people don't want to go on TikTok, I mean, we do our best to show them the results. And you're also 100% right. They want to manage that affiliate relationship and not understanding how that whole system works, how that ecosystem works, because you can't necessarily control it. You can't script out what an affiliate's going to say. They have their own world, and they've got this method of communication. That's why they have followers. People love them, and it's a numbers game. You have to continue it, and you have to get as many as you possibly can, thousands of them, to talk about your brand and to sell your product online. And when you really look at the numbers, and we've done this a number of times, giving free product out and managing the affiliate relationship and paying affiliates or whatever, generally on a cost per acquisition basis, is less expensive than direct advertising to get that sale. And it's far more effective because you got more people talking about it. And once you start showing that, then people get on board a bit, but they're always hesitant. I find they're just a little bit hesitant, and they start 30 days, 45 days, they start questioning it, and you're going, just stick with it. You're going to see. And
Yeah.
it generally comes out.
I mean, again, we've been blessed now to be with brands that we have great synergy with,
Right.
and we work. Before we take on brands and work with brands from both ends, we obviously want to make sure we can offer a lot of value. Like, we're not here to offer 5% growth or 7% growth. I mean, we
Sure.
want to see brands that have gaps, and we've had brands that have come that we've spoken to that are run really well, and I'll be like, I don't see room for more than 5-7% growth. So if you're looking for more, I think setting those expectations of like what you can and can't do with brands also is super important. And there are many brands that, there is 30-40% growth, and there's many brands that have done a great job and are where they are for a reason.
Right.
But yeah, being with the brand, I mean, I think having the working relationship with brands to really understand, set clear expectations of, this is where I think we can go, this is how we're going to handle it, and really giving them full transparency, obviously, into everything we're doing, from ad spend to KPIs to metrics to cost per clicks to new to brands, everything that we're doing in real time on a dashboard, so they feel, they can always check in on us. But I mean, there's definitely a trusting relationship of they trust us to grow the brand, and obviously, I think we've done a good job of that.
Yeah. No. There was one brand, I can't remember the name of it, but it was, I believe it was Sun Care, and you got it to rank number one pretty quickly.
Keratin.
Which one was it?
Keratin skincare. That was it's a tanning gel from Greece.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got it. I saw that you had it ranking like number one very, 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 very quickly, which was, fairly amazing,
Uh, they say there's your overnight success after 10 years.
Yeah.
Very quickly. I mean, it was quick, but I mean, knowing in the building the work that went into it, and we planned for a long time, and I mean, not long. I mean, a year, but internally, we had a really, really, really good plan that we stuck to. We invested a ton of money, knowing that we were going to get to number one. I mean, that was when we were going to be profitable as a company, because we do invest a lot in our brands to get where we want to the goal. So. Yes, that was one of those overnight successes that wasn't overnight internally. But
it was overnight on the consumer facing. It was overnight on the consumer facing side, but it wasn't overnight on the back end. But
yes, I don't know if the people here working overnight would have told you that was an overnight.
Yeah. Do you see a correlation between what happens on TikTok and your Amazon sales?
Yes, and yes. I mean, some brands, there's a huge correlation and a huge halo. I know TikTok Shop has finally, I would say, come clean that it's not necessarily a platform that you're going to be super profitable on its own.
Right.
After the affiliate fees and the fulfillment by TikTok fees, and then you're putting ads on each affiliate video and running through those, and then the sampling. I mean, you're not getting an ad until you sample and ship out a product to a customer. So all that, I think they've kind of come clean because they started. I know our TikTok account managers and the head of beauty is kind of like coming out and saying, "Hey, look at the halo effect that your brand's going to have." So they understand that TikTok Shop is, I would say, an advertising arm to Amazon and to ecom. And the beauty is it does touch both of us. We have many brands that we're doing, great things on TikTok, and we're selling the brand on Amazon, but we're not. Some of the brands we control the ecom, some we don't, and all are seeing a lot of success from that. But I do think there's certain brands that are more geared for TikTok, based on the ASMR, the sensory feeling. If it's a brand that people can sense through video, how people talk about it. So there's brands that obviously convert better to TikTok or to video than others. And I think being conscious to not just take 10,000 units, spread them out, and then hope for the best, but like really analyzing the data as it comes in to understand if you need a pivot, which I think is, like I said, the most important thing I think in business is to pivot. I mean, I think every successful business starts off doing one thing, and 5 years later they're doing another, and 5 years later another. So I think just being open to not being stuck, we're going to do this and only this, and it's going to succeed, but saying we're going to do this, and if the data tells us something else, we're going to switch really, really quickly.
Yeah. Well, the market shifts. You have to be able to pivot. We talk about it all the time, and I'm involved in a bunch of entrepreneurial groups, and we talk about it all the time because you have to be prepared to pivot. The marketplace is going to change. The competitors are going to change. The customer is going to change a little bit. I mean, look at what happened just since COVID. A lot of things have changed. So you have to always be prepared to pivot, and you always have to be aware of what's going on in the market. And I think, in my opinion, TikTok is one of those things where you have to, if you've got a brand and you have to put your toe in that water and then see what happens with it. But you're right. What we've seen early on is that there's not a direct sale on the TikTok shop, but we do see sales go up on Amazon or sales go up on the website. We sell product through the shop, but not to the extent that you would think. But every time we've done something, or we had one brand where, we just did a great video and got like a couple of million views right away, and it exploded the Amazon sales. So, that sort of opened our eyes up to how to analyze it, because that happened about 2 years ago, and it just opened our eyes up to how to analyze it, and how to manage affiliates and how to watch what they're doing, and how to see when they hit on something that's big and where that effect happens. So. Because I love that analysis and I love that data and trying to figure out, what's happening with each step of the way. So,
Yeah, it is fascinating to watch, especially when it's so new. And I don't think, the data is not that established, and there's so many different opinions on how to do things. So
yeah,
there's so many things to try and so many things to learn. And I think it's a lot of fun. To learn it and to figure it out, especially, as it's brand new. But so TikTok Shop, I think, I think the platform can sell a lot. Again, I think the margin for profitability is obviously, I think, for most brands, the goal is to get the shopper, to get the product viral and eventually bring the shopper into e-com or Amazon.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. What's your take on Rufus and Cosmo on Amazon?
I think it's good. It's going to be awesome. I think it's a great. I think they're putting enough money into it that I think it's going to be great, and I think it's getting there. I'm more excited about some of the Amazon AI ads that they're creating on the DSP and display side.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They are making. And I think AI is doing this in general, is making an equal playing field for really anyone and everything. You don't need a high level market. We have a big marketing team, and now it's like, okay, you could press 2 buttons and get this ad created, or you could press, we used to go through customer reviews and customer data. Now you could just click 2 buttons and like, tell me like what customers love about this brand the most,
Right.
product, and what are they disliking, so we can fix it. That's something we all take a lot of pride in. Like I said, we do service. Service is the key. or our guiding light. So anytime a customer is upset about something, how can we fix it? Is it coming bad? Are they expecting something else? What do we need to change? And a lot of times the product is great, but you need to change the title, the description to better explain the customer, this hair dye is not meant to last, 3 months. It's a three
Right.
week, it's 3 weeks. So like, this is not something upsetting if it doesn't last that long. So really understanding that and getting ahead of that, maybe having an insert, a little note from the brand. But I do think AI is basically making leveling the playing field. And I think the challenge then is going to be finding smaller and smaller, little pieces of value and smaller places to grow. I mean, I think you have to be a lot more strategic. Where 5, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, you could have run any ad and you would have been doing amazing. 5 years ago, you have to be a decent at ads. And now you have to be really, really strategic and finding, really key differences in your brand and really analyzing the data and digging deep. The good news is that it's easy to find if you really work at it, because the AI does, if you know how to use the AI and you have the right softwares within AI. And I think ChatGPT is like now the god of AI, but I think there's so many other softwares that specialize in specific aspects of ad data, of optimizing ads, of customer analysis. So I think getting ahead of that and using it and knowing how to use it gives an edge. But again, I think it gives everybody the chance to be good at what they do, for sure.
Yeah, we are actively updating pages based on some analysis that we've gotten from AI on Amazon and on websites, because about I guess it was about 6 or 7 months ago, we had a client and we're looking at the data and we saw just tremendous amount of traffic and sales coming from ChatGPT search. I guess this was back in about January, February. And we started looking into it and how ChatGPT search, not just ChatGPT, but ChatGPT search and Perplexity and Gemini we're reading this information. So there are changes that we're actively making on both the Amazon side and the website side to make it easier for AI to read. And the reason that I see it took Google 5 years or 6 years to go from 0 to 1 billion daily searches. It took ChatGPT uh, less than a year to go to 1 billion daily searches, and now they're specing. So, and Sam Altman's already said that his goal is to out Google, and they signed a deal with Shopify to do some things, and so we're starting to see some activity. And I was on a call about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, where they were alluding to the fact that um, uh, Sam Altman is coming out with a link to websites sort of similar to Merchant Center, Google Merchant Center, where you'll be able to have a flow of your products in. But those products have to be optimized to be read by AI. And they're also coming out with an ad platform on ChatGPT search. So I think both of those things are going to sort of change how things are done. Again, it's in my opinion, but
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. One thing that we have had some hiccups with, the AI is aligning that with a brand. So really, sometimes, if you have AI, we have some AI softwares that are optimizing and doing A/B tests constantly and optimizing one word at a time and seeing this and checking that in real time. So we have some of those. Some of those we have had change to better optimize something, but it's not on brand. So I think that's something that we've been
oh
really
yeah,
careful. How do we constantly change this, but make sure it's not saying something that's not on brand? Because Amazon does, and you see this with a lot of white labels and private labels. The conversion is big capital letters and 150 words in the title, like those things, that every word that may convert the customer, but it's not a brand and it's not long lasting.
right.
So really, making sure you're staying on brand. And now with AI, you could really plug a lot of that in and still see the small optimizations that you can make, and you can make thousands of them in a day. So that the optimization it's really incredible. It's a little scary, uh, how much is being done and how quick. And I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years, but it's also exciting because you got to stay ahead of things and find what's your value and what are you offering. If everyone has AI and everyone can do this, how am I staying ahead of the curve, and how am I growing a brand against everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's true that everybody has it, but I see people doing things every day on AI that just uh, crack me up because they don't know how to use the tool. Well, they're treating it as a tool and not as a system as part of their business. If you're just going to treat it like an app and you're going to say, well, I'm just going to, plug in a you know, plug in something and get something out of it. That's not really what it is. You have to build it into your systems. Like you were talking about, when we started using AI tools about 6 or 7 years ago, and the first place we started using them was with data analytics, because just like you were talking about with ads, it was really difficult. If you take over somebody, a new account, and they've been in business for several years, and they've got all this data and what they were doing with Google ads and Meta ads and Amazon ads, and trying to pull that data down and make heads or tails of it manually is nearly impossible. And so to be able to pull it out into spreadsheets and get feed it into an AI platform and get some sort of an analysis that tells you what happened, what worked, what didn't work, was to me was game changing. And then content wise, yes, AI can do a lot of wonderful things, but you need to have guardrails and you need to have a human intervention with it. We're making changes to pages, but we use AI to get us about 60% of the way there. The other 40% has to still be human eyes, because you're right, it has to be on brand, has to make sense. You've got to put together pieces in within there that are almost questions, frequently asked questions in a different form, so that AI can read it. Because what Rufus and Cosmo and ChatGPT and all these are trying to figure out is intent of how the customer is going to use the product and what the customer is going to do. And even on the back end of Amazon, all those little places to fill out information that a lot of people just forego are more and more important every day. Who's this for? Is it male, female, unisex, whatever it is. And so you're 100% right that it sort of levels the playing field. But there's a lot of people out there that still don't even know how to write a good prompt to get an AI product to do anything for them. So I'm never concerned about, that type of thing. I think that, it'll be years before people start to really understand it. So.
All right. I mean, that helps me sleep at night. Thank you.
No, it's true. I mean, I had a friend on LinkedIn. This is just last week. Now, if there's one thing that's everybody has used AI for, ChatGPT or whatever, is to build some sort of a piece of content, a piece of written content, whether it's an article, whether it's a post, whatever. And so you would think that everybody understands how to build that type of prompt to get what you want. And I had a friend of mine wrote, I tried to, write an article and I used AI and it was garbage. And so, I'm back to writing it
Never
myself.
using AI again.
And I said, hey, send me the prompt that you used. Just let me see it. I'm just curious. And so, he sends me the prompt and it was just barren. It didn't tell AI anything. It was just basically write me an article about this subject. And so I took it and rewrote it and built an article for him. And I sent it to him. I said, is this more like what you were trying to do? He's like, yeah. I said, dude, you have to learn how to write a prompt. Your prompt is your problem. It's not the tool. It's your prompt. So anyway, so I think that there's a
It's
lot of
funny
people.
that you'd rather take the couple hours to write the actual article than the 1 minute to build out the prompt.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, but that's just my thing. So, but along the way, right, we've got about 10 minutes left, but along the way, you built this business, but it couldn't have all been smooth sailing. I mean, you talked about the transition and giving up profitable sales and giving up profitable companies, but there must have been other hiccups along the way to doing this. You've been doing this for an awful long time.
Well, yeah, I'm 45 and I have no, I'm all white, so clearly this has taken a toll on me. Um, I mean, I think, one of the things I would say, and this is not a, one specific thing, but I think, coming to the realization that um, really investing into me changing and learning how to manage and lead employees has been I mean, in the beginning, I would say I was pretty terrible at it. And I think it's been a big challenge to like, how do I do this? And I think in the beginning, it was like, I'm working, you're working, like, let's get this done. And understanding that, like, stopping and dealing with an employee, so to speak. And that was like the wrong attitude. You're not dealing with an employee, you're investing in this employee, which
Right.
is investing in your business, and really understanding that. But even once you understand it, like really understanding um, how to, empower other employees and deal with different employees. And then also like which employees are not really, fit for your culture, and getting confidence in what you're building and your culture. And sometimes, they're not a fit, and sometimes you can get them there with different tools and different training and different coaches. I'm definitely not at the coaching level, but I mean bringing in help, but really understanding that the time that time spent investing in employees is the business itself, and having great people is the best business. And like I said, I don't know what we're going to be, where we're going to be in 5 years, especially as fast as the world is changing and technology is changing. But I'm very confident with a great team and a cohesive team that we will be at the forefront. So, understanding that and really starting to make that a big part of my job, versus in the past where it was probably like a nuisance to my job, and I was, all about getting things done and growing the business. And now I think, that's taken over as probably a much bigger part of my day-to-day job.
Yeah. I I talk about I talk about this when I speak to entrepreneurs. A lot of times I founded my first business when I was 27 years old, and it failed. It was ugly. It wasn't great. The business itself, the structure of the business was sound. The failure was on my side. I was a terrible leader. I was a terrible manager of process, and that killed it. It destroyed it. And I truly think about it almost every day, about how those people who worked for me must have felt coming to work every day, because it was a disaster every day. It was chaos, pure chaos, because I just didn't know. I didn't have the right frame of mind or the skill set to be a good leader and to be a good process manager, to be able to get people to do what I needed them to do. And I had this idea, which, it turns out that is pretty common amongst entrepreneurs, is that, you know, and again, I was young, I was 27, is, I'm the entrepreneur. I had the idea, therefore I should have all the answers. And, nobody else should have to think. I should be able to do all the thinking, which is a terrible, terrible way to be. And it cost me, because that first business, I mean, I ran it for 3 years, but it was just a disaster. And, I'm not one to say I give up, but I had to give up on that one. And I would say 99% of it was leadership. I was just
I mean,
being.
that's a lot of self-awareness. I mean, kudos to you for seeing that. I mean, a lot of people, don't have the self-awareness, and are don't see the reasons for the failures. I think that's obviously the first step, and that was my first step of like, okay, like, do people want to come work for me for here? Like, we want to be the best in business. So obviously it's intense, and there's a lot of pressure to do, what we do, and do it really, really well. But how can we balance that out? Which
Yeah.
brings us, and then work-life balance. I mean, how does that work nowadays? Which has been obviously another whole gamut.
Yeah. Yeah. I had problems with that. I think in the beginning, I thought I had to. I was under the impression, this was also part of my problem in the first business. I was under the impression that I had to just work hard. The more hours I put in, nobody should be able to outwork me. I can be there at 6 in the morning and leave at 10 o'clock at night, and it's no problem, 6 days a week. And it's not healthy. It's not a good way of doing it. And but if what I've learned over the years, and you talk about self awareness, but it didn't really come for about, I would say, a year after the failure, because I sold what was left of the business, and I took the money, and I went back to graduate school. I went to graduate school, and I moved down from New York to Maryland, and I went to get an MBA, not because I thought I needed more education, but I needed to think differently. I knew I wasn't thinking straight, and it was I forget what class it was, but that's when I realized, like, it was 100% my fault, because my first year, I'm like, this was bad, and this was bad, and it was the landlord, it was this, it was that, and it wasn't. It was me, 100% me. And so that's when I came to the realization, and then I invested in this. small chain in Washington D.C. that had 2 stores, and we were going to grow it. And I invested in that, and they had some really great, like the owner of that company was just phenomenal, and I had such a direct line to him, and because it was basically small team, and that's really where I got a great education in leadership and process management. So you don't have to kill yourself. Yeah, there's always going to be times where you have to work hard and you have to work long hours, but if you put in the right people and you lead those people and you put in the right processes that you can manage with KPIs and see what's going on all the time, that's when you really have a scalable business. You cannot have a scalable business if it's dependent on you to work 60 or 80 or 100 hours a week. It's not healthy. So that sort of gives you that work-life balance. You're always thinking about the business. I mean, I am, even when I'm not here, I'm always thinking about it, but I don't have to be there every day.
Yeah, I think I'm still learning that one. That one's still a struggle for me. Maybe you could coach me on how I can build a business, that I want with the balance.
Well, I do
I'll hit
coaching.
you up after this because I never learned that well.
Well, I do coaching, and I actually I'll tell you a quick one. I had this brand that we took on, and great brand, and they were in the food side of it. The entrepreneur started it just like you. He started from zero, took it to about 20 million. He was stuck at 20 million for about 2 years, and it was driving him insane. And he thought it was a marketing and advertising problem. Brings us on, and he's talking to me about advertising and marketing and messaging, and that's what the problem is. And they had wholesale as well as retail. They had a brand, and he brought on this A++ player. This guy knew everybody in the industry. I mean, this guy was a powerhouse, and he just couldn't make anything happen. And it bothered me. And I said, I don't think it's an advertising problem. And I said, would you be willing to do a 2-day offsite? And we just broke down the business. And within 4 hours, we figured out the biggest problem, which was, I said to the A++ player, I don't understand. You know everybody. Why can't you make headway? He said, he wants to be on every single call. Every single sales call. He said, I can't, I'm managing to his schedule. Meanwhile, he's running operations, he's running finance, he's running marketing, he's running the business. He said, and so I said, why would you want to be on every single call? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Let him do what he does. You could come in for the close. You don't have to be on every single call. And it took us about 2 hours to get over that hump and convince him. And once we did, he was still a little skeptical, but that was about 2.5 years ago. And
Do you let go?
he let go. They've doubled their sales in 2.5 years. The
Wow.
A++ player. I mean, this guy was a powerhouse, and he started booking business, and it was just phenomenal to watch. And his wife was running the brand side that they were selling on e-com and Amazon and stuff. And once he laid off her, she was able to make some decisions that she wanted to do, and all of a sudden, her brand was growing. And so it was this effect. So
Sometimes the best thing you can do is shut up and get out of the way.
that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some. I mean, when you bring in the right person, there's definitely like, you feel it, and it's like, I hired you, my work here is done. Like, I don't need to walk into that department. I don't need to know about that. I don't need to know what's going on there, except a weekly report or something. And that's really beautiful. That's a beautiful place.
Yeah. So we've got about a minute left. You got any parting words? Any closing words?
I mean, I think in parting, I mean, relative to the business and not, I think, the concept of adding value and really providing value to both brands and customers, for us is at a forefront. But I think for any business is constantly being open, and I think open-minded, because things are always changing, and things that also make sense to you. And something that we always talk about is like, if I was on Amazon and I saw this listing, I'd go and buy two. Would I do this? Would I do that? You always have to listen to the data, because most of us are not your average shopper, and there's tens of millions of shoppers and they're not going to be exactly like you. And you really need to be open-minded to the data, and really be open-minded and to being wrong. I mean, the way that you just said, how you failed when you were 27 and spoke about it so earnestly. I think really being able to be saying, hey, this is not right. We invested in this, but we're cutting it and we're moving, we're pivoting, and always being open, so that you can find the next opportunity. Because if you're just sitting on your road, you're very likely not going to be successful for very long.
Yeah. great. That's great. Great word of advice. So big thanks to Shmuly Ainsworth for pulling back the curtain on what authentic partnership in premium beauty really looks like. So if today's episode sparked ideas for your brand, hit subscribe, share with a founder who needs it, drop your questions in the comments, and we'll keep the conversation going. And for more frameworks, head to crunchgrowth.com and catch next week's episode on crunching your growth. And so we will see you then.